you're interested in streamlining your Photoshop workflow to improve productivity, then I recommend that you take a look at Photoshop's keyboard shortcuts and menus, which is located at the very bottom of the Edit drop-down menu up the top here. So if we just scroll to the bottom, you'll find the keyboard shortcuts and also the menu. Now they'll both bring up the same window, so you only need to essentially click on one of these. And what you'll find is you'll actually have the keyboard shortcuts tab and you'll have the menus tab. So as you can see, presently I have a workspace or working space set to photo here. Now you can actually choose to set your own particular working space that your shortcuts are going to be related to. So in this case, I've created a custom working space called Photo, but you also have the Photoshop defaults. But if you do create your own working space, then you want to actually make sure that you actually assign your keyboard shortcuts and menu and custom menu settings specific to that particular working space that you're actually going to be using. Underneath where you actually specify a particular working space, you'll actually find the Shortcuts For option, which essentially allows you to choose either the application menus, the panel menus, and the tools menus as the area that you actually want to create shortcuts for. So for this particular example, I'm going to utilize application menus. So I'm going to click on that one. Now beside this option, you can actually select to use the legacy channel shortcuts, which are shortcuts that were around prior to Photoshop CS4 for channel switching. Now personally, I'm just going to leave this unselected because personally I don't use that. Now, after you've selected the appropriate workspace and menu from which to work, proceed to find an item that you actually want to create a shortcut for by navigating through the menu options. So you'll notice here that all the options that are currently visible are actually the same menu items that you'll actually find up the top here in Photoshop. So you can scroll through these and find the appropriate image adjustments or filters or anything essentially that you want to actually assign a keyboard shortcut to. So for this example, I'm going to go to Image, and we'll scroll down a little bit and we'll find Adjustments. So there's Adjustments, and then I can choose any of these adjustments in order to assign a keyboard shortcut. So we'll notice that there are already some defaults that have already been set in Photoshop for levels and curves and hue and saturation and color balance. But for the exposure and vibrance, they don't have their own shortcuts. So essentially, in order to create a shortcut, all I need to do is click on a particular menu item and then enter a shortcut value. So in this case, I'm going to hold down Command on my Mac keyboard and I'm going to use comma. And that's basically entered a keyboard shortcut that I can actually go ahead and accept as being the actual keyboard shortcut that I want to use. Now, you'll find that a lot of keyboard shortcuts are already in use and have been taken, or they're just not the the keys that you enter for your keyboard shortcut are incorrect and not actually accepted. Now, Photoshop will actually acknowledge this. So for example, if I go, say, Command T, you'll notice that it's given me a little warning here that's popped up and says Command T is already in use and will be removed from the Edit Free Transform if accepted. So you can actually override existing shortcuts if you wish, but in most cases you probably want to enter something that will not actually do that, so you can actually keep the existing ones and actually create new variations for your own particular custom workflow. Now you'll notice that also if I was to enter, say, some different types of values here, you'll also get a red alert as well, and this essentially says that this is an invalid shortcut. So it's actually telling you what menu commands you can actually enter in as shortcuts. So here it says you can include the little command icon or sort of a forward slash, or you can use any of the F keys in order to create shortcuts. So what I'm just going to essentially do is just remove this. So that's essentially a quick way of actually creating shortcuts within the shortcuts window. Now, once you've actually created a shortcut, how do you actually go about remembering it, especially if you create lots of them for all different variety of adjustments and settings in Photoshop? How do you actually remember them? Well, the way to actually do that is to go to Summarize here, and you want to click on that, and essentially save a file. Once you actually save a file to your computer, what you can do is open it up with a text document or even Excel, and it'll actually provide you with, if I can quickly demonstrate an example here, it'll actually provide you with a document that actually contains all of the keyboard shortcuts. So as you can see here, I've got just a text document, and it's got all of the different keyboard shortcuts that are actually contained. So what you can do then is actually go ahead and print these out, put them up on the wall beside your computer monitor, and highlight the ones that you like to use a lot, and then you can actually refer back to your printout in order to remember what the actual shortcuts are. So that's also very neat, and it's something that I recommend that you actually do. Now, keyboard shortcuts are great for streamlining your workflow, but can be hard to remember sometimes, especially if you haven't actually printed them out. So for those of you who would actually like to improve your workflow visually, should take a look at the menus tab. So if we go up the top here, you'll notice that you've got keyboard shortcuts, and then you've got the menus tab. So if we click on that, what you'll find is you've got a range of other options here for actually customizing your menu. So essentially, you can actually choose to turn on and off the visibility of different menu options that you simply don't use, and keep the ones that you do use. But even better still, you can actually give specific menu items a color so that they can easily be identified as your favorite options quickly, without having to actually get confused with the large amount of choice that is actually available in Photoshop's menus. So what you can do is, if I was to go back to image and use this, for example, you'll find here you've got the visibility column, and you've also got the color column. So visibility, color. Now I can choose, say I don't use exposure in the image adjustment menu, what I can do is actually turn off the visibility so that won't be visible in my menu now. Along with that, I can actually choose to say, if I use levels or something like that, and I use that quite a bit, what I can actually do is assign a particular color to levels. So for example, I might assign green to levels, and say for a color adjustment, say color balance, I might assign, say, red to it. So if we were to click OK on this, what we can then do is actually go to our little menu up here, we go to adjustments, and you'll find that levels now is actually highlighted green and color balance is highlighted red. So it makes it extremely easy for your eyes to pick up when you're actually navigating through these menus to find exactly what you're actually after. And these, it's especially good if you actually use these types of adjustments a lot and you really want to sort of jump to them quickly, but you may not necessarily want to use the keyboard shortcut. So that's very handy as well. So if I just go back here to the actual menus settings, you can actually choose the actual menu that you actually want to hide the visibility or actually apply color settings to. So you've got the choice of application menus, and you've got the choice of panel menus, which are the menus that you'll find over in your panels section. So that's the keyboard shortcuts and menus window in Photoshop. And at the end of the day, anything you can do to actually improve your productivity is always a good thing. So make sure that you take a look at these settings and actually start to personalize your workspace to improve your own editing workflow.